Hello and happy Thursday, everybody. It's Josh here with On the Wrong Lead, and finally got the entire group of guys together for the first time. It seems like forever. I do not have any live bets at Del Mar, so you'll not hear me cheering for Jose Valdivia Jr. down the stretch to start. Yeah, we just got back from nice little weekend in Saratoga, and. I had a bit of flight troubles, and then so did Andrew, and apparently a ton of people did. And yeah, flying is just an absolute nightmare. One person who's definitely put on a lot of airline miles lately, Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, you're currently being held in what looks to be a detention area, with just beige walls everywhere. No, nothing around, but. How you doing, man? How you settling in? How many more flights you got coming up here?
Yeah, we're finally settled in here. So yeah, no channel maker hats on the wall or any fun horse memorabilia around, unfortunately. So yeah, I am settled in up at Cambridge. This will be the new view for the next year. So it's not too bad. I know the angle's kind of wonky because I'm still getting the desk set up and a few other things, but getting settled in. It's been a whirlwind lately between a couple work trips and then Saratoga last week. But that was a fun trip. That was a lot of fun. Getting to see all the guys and getting to go on the backside. That was a really good time. So enjoyed it all. But now just settling in and getting ready for going back to school next week.
and there are possible bonuses coming up today. I haven't looked yet to see which degenerate track is running tonight, but you may hear a Papa Knight in the background trying to root a horse home somewhere at Charlestown or something.
You never know.
So stay tuned for that. A man that we just the most predictable man in horse racing here. If a 6-5 crosses the line first, he's got it. Mr. Mark Habitant, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. It was nice having you guys up in my neck of the woods for a few days. We had a lot of fun. Good time chatting and hanging out the track, and got to see a bunch of faces that we are, Twitter friends with, or people that we chat with all the time, but don't get to see in person. It's nice to see. I know we chatted with Sarah Badawi for a bit. It was nice to see her. We chatted with Matt for quite a while. Grabbed a couple of adult beverages with him, and had a great time there. And yeah, overall, it was a really, really good time having you guys around. And we'll have to do it again next year.
Yeah, next year might be. You might get sick of us next year. I already got sick of you a little bit, but you might get sick of us.
There's 2 back-to-back weeks where we hung out, and that was just too much. Like I need a little Josh distance for a while.
We were together for probably what amounted almost like a week and a half over the past 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, and I have Mark stories for a lifetime. Yeah, we could talk for forever. So if anyone ever has any questions about Mark Captain, I could probably answer them for you. But yeah, it's good. It's good to finally get up to Saratoga. The racing has left a little bit to be desired, I think. Today we got most of the turf racing in. We did have 2 kind of get washed off today. I guess washed off might not be the right term. I don't know what the term for, I think, just races being taken off in a humongous abundance of caution. Yeah, we had that this week or today, and the turf course is just it's unpredictable right now. Caleb, I think you pointed out that it seems like every race, it seems like there's a horse that just seems like he's going good, and then just like kind of half stumbles and stops coming down that turf course. And so I don't know if it's just like looking like the streets in New York out there with potholes everywhere or what's going on. But I feel like there's a ton of unpredictability right now in the turf course.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's something going on, specifically maybe with the inner turf. And I empathize a little bit with Naira's position, which is about the only thing they've done lately that I empathize with. But it's a tough spot to be in when it seems like something's up with that turf course. We've seen more breakdowns than you're accustomed to seeing on the turf. And even today, I think there was a runner in one of the maiden races. I forget the horse's name. It was the number 8 horse, Delhi on Delhi or something like that. And just looked absolutely loaded coming into the stretch and took a bad step and then almost looked like took a second bad step a few jumps later. And we've seen that a number of times with these quote unquote potholes in the stretch. So I'm not sure what's going on. They did take 2 of the sprints off the turf today and they moved the feature onto the melon. So it seems like they recognize something's going on there, but I'm not sure what the solution is. The weather has been rough and it's been a very cursed Saratoga summer.
Yeah, I know going back, it used to be both turf courses did not have underlayment. They were just simply, grass growing on the ground, right? And a few years ago, they tore up the melon. They put crushed limestone down. They actually, put proper drainage in because they had a season where it was like this with, really wetness. Now, that did not happen on the inner though. The inner is just an old school turf course that's just grass growing on ground. There's no preparation. So I wonder if it's just that. I mean, we've gotten crazy amounts of rain. We've, in a month, we've gotten like 6 months worth of rain every month, like for the entire summer. It's just been an absolute crazy thing where we're getting 6 or 8 inches of rain in a month when we're normally used to getting like 2. So it's been absolutely crazy. And, that's not Naira's fault. There's a lot that's gone wrong that has been Naira's fault though. And I mean, if you want to bitch about that, I mean, I think there's definitely some big items that are fair game. It's hard to blame them for the weather, right? But there's a lot of stuff they've done that's been really stupid that's pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Was it about 4 years ago that we had a summer that was similar to this?
Yep,
Where
yep.
it seems like every week. I mean, I think there was like a solid like 2 weeks where we might have almost seen like 1 or 2 turf races like the entire week, the big stakes races. Like it was pretty bad. And I mean, I don't know. This year it just feels worse, And I know some of it's I think it's maybe because it's just not just the weather, but everything else going on with horse racing, with and some of it Saratoga, some of it not. I mean, I'll tell you, man, the money has been as sharp as I have ever seen it, or at least it feels like to me. I mean, it just feels like you don't get, you just don't get any kind of value uh, anymore. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just having like that bad of a meet, and maybe it's just me like crying and being being a shitty horse player or what. But I don't know, man. It's just been tough.
I would tend to agree with you. It does feel like the smart money's been very smart. I have been able to find value, but it's predominantly been in maiden races that are bigger fields and being a little more spready and being able to find I think what it was at the second race today where there was like an 8, I think it was an 8 or a 10-1 that ended up wiring the field, and I think that if you can do that, but it's been one of those things where those value plays in an allowance race or an optional 60 or something, those just haven't been there. You've sort of had to pick up the fresh runners, spread out a little, and hope you find that value. It has been tough. I very much agree with you, Josh. It's been very tough.
Stephen Fox saying that the stewards probably wouldn't DQ thunderstorms if they had the power to. I think it would because IRAD would not be up there riding, so I think they definitely would have.
Can you herd a thunderstorm?
I mean, I'm sure like Zeus can or something. Doesn't he have like a chariot or something?
A chariot, he can. Okay,
sounds right. But yeah, we obviously today, we were talking, and I stopped betting after race 3. So I was able to minimize the damage today, and I didn't play any Del Mar or anything, but I don't know. We got some good races this weekend. Assuming we avoid some weather at Saratoga, the cards look pretty. The Saturday card looks pretty decent. The Woodbine card on Sunday looks phenomenal.
Sell it, baby.
Mark can also tell you how the Saturday Woodbine card looks, since he was
I was really
confused.
confused why Josh had me capping an optional 40 as the last race of the day. And then I realized that he wanted me to cap the Sunday Woodbine card. And then I felt like a moron. No, it is a really good card. And I would say if you are somebody playing Saratoga and you're looking at playing tomorrow, more than likely everything's going to come off the turf tomorrow. We're supposed to get half-inch of rain between 6 a.m. and 3 p.m. Thunderstorms coming through, so obviously not consistent. It could be more, could be less. The good old New England weather. But I'm hoping that everything is on for Saturday. Looks like it's going to end at kind of 3 p.m. and then hopefully the weather gets, hopefully it dries out a little bit overnight.
And I know you guys are. Charles is talking about the bump on Sterling's head, and Mark's saying it wasn't hard enough, but Jay pointing out that hey, top picks won the pick six, 8 top picks won today, and the other 2 ran second. So maybe some stuff got rearranged with that bump, and he's seeing the ball extra well. I don't know, but yeah, shout out to Andy. I mean, it's as we've seen with our little Saratoga one a day contest that we've been doing, picking a winner put like on top is not not as easy as maybe we thought it would be. We're just trying to pick one race. I know we talked a little bit about this in person, and like sometimes it's like you're between 2 or 3 races, and like your other 2 horses win, but the one that you end up writing up is the one that loses. So
that was me again today. Yep, I was between 2, and I basically flipped a coin, and I always picked the wrong one.
Yeah, it's been tough, but let's get ahead here. We're gonna start with Saratoga here. We got 2 races we're gonna take a look at here, and we're gonna start with race 7, the Lake Placid Grade 2 here, for fillies 3 years old. You got a bunch of Chad Brown horses in this race. I believe your morning line favorite is, and the 9 and 10 are MTOs here, so we're gonna pretend this is on the turf. But I believe your morning line favorite's the Rosario Chad, which is interesting because that's like Chad's like 7th call. But the 7 surge capacity is 3-1 on the morning line in the ones that are in the main body of the field here. And then you got 7-2 on the spray, 9-2 on Glorious Princess and Prerequisite. Tax implications 5-1. That sounds like a Clairvich horse if I've ever heard one. Heavenly Sunday at 6-1, and then you got longer prices on everybody else there. Mark, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I obviously morning line does have the 7 surge capacity being your favorite. I have a feeling that might not be the case come post time. I think a spray is probably, it would not surprise me at all if a spray is your favorite when the gates pop. Who has I honestly, I want no part of a spray in here, but I think that horse's name is enough of a known quantity amongst horse players that they will probably give her another chance and kind of go back there, assuming that the last time out in the Belmont Oaks was a little further than she wants to go, and she did have a little bit of a trouble trip in there. The morning line favorite surge capacity does make an absolute ton of sense to me. She's 2 for 2. I know a lot of people faded her given the fact that she broke her maiden at Monmouth, and those tend to not be the best of Chads. But I thought she was really impressive in the Lake George. Unless you're making the argument that she just handled the slightly softer going better than everybody else in that field, she seems to be kind of improving. And she got it done last out, and with how she got it done, I don't think there's any reason to believe that the further trip should hurt her. So I think she makes a ton of sense in this field, and I definitely like her here. And the other horse I was really interested in is the 3 Glorious Princess for Brendan Walsh. She's 2 of 3 lifetime, has a win going this trip, has won her last 2. Comes off a turf race at Ellis and ships up into Saratoga. And I think Ellis turf form has translated pretty well to Saratoga so far this meet. As opposed to the dirt form. And, I think connections all the way around. You have to like her. It looks like Louis had other choices in here and sticks here. And, I think she's probably very well meant here. She's got a lot of tactical speed. She'll probably stalk Heavenly Sunday, and kind of get that first run. So those are the two that I was most interested, but interested to see where you guys landed here.
Yeah, Caleb, where did you kind of land here?
Yeah, I sadly enough. Well, first off, Josh, have you ever heard of Asprey before this race?
I have not.
Okay.
Really?
Neither have I. Yeah.
She's been a hype horse forever. Okay.
Yeah, the hype horse that debuts in an off the turf race at Tampa, then goes back at Tampa,
Okay.
then goes to Pimlico.
Okay.
Who is hyped about this horse? Nobody. I think the morning line's right, and I think that's how they're going to bet this race. If Mark and I both like the same horse, that horse is likely to take money. And I do think Surge Capacity is very much the horse to beat in here. I was one of the skeptics of her in the Lake George, given the fact that she did break her maiden at Monmouth, but she did so with a big figure, and she backed it up. I mean, you can say what you want about the yielding turf last time at Saratoga, but you can't just say that she's a soft turf specialist, because she did a very nice run at Monmouth as well. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about a horse that Mark's already covered, but I do think she's a deserving favorite and the most likely winner of this race. The only one I'd probably look to in here that hasn't really been covered at all is the number 1 Heavenly Sunday. I go back and forth between the 1 and the 3, because if they both end up going on the front end, I think they probably knock each other out of the race. But I do think that there's a world where, either the 1 can clear off from the 3, or the 1 just kind of sits. Heavenly Sunday is not necessarily a need to lead horse. I mean, we've seen her win, rating off the pace before. We've seen her in the first 3 starts of her career, she came off the pace. She does have a lot of speed should Tyler elect to go, and from the rail, maybe that's the decision. But I don't think she necessarily needs the lead in here, and she's very fast. Her last race out in the Tepin was quite good. Just got nailed late by Zygira, who is a very nice horse. She didn't come back to run all that well, but I think the distance was a little bit too far in her next start. The third place horse, Cephine, did come back and win next out and improve her speed figure quite a bit. So Heavenly Sunday is the other one I would look to after surge capacity in here.
Yeah, and you touched on my top pick in this race, which is the 1 Heavenly Sunday. I mean, of course, it is the 3 cherry special here, the E8. But Caleb, you brought up a couple other points that was kind of the reason why I'm going to be leaning heavily on this horse here. Most notably is that last race, right? Zygira is a nice horse, and Cephine came back and won pretty impressively, I think, the next time out. So I think that flatters Heavenly Sunday a little bit in that race, to finish second there by a half length, and kind of dug in there. I always have a tough time with Naira turf races. I talked a little bit about this briefly in the article from today. I looked at that turf race that I picked, that third race, and you saw a fair bit of speed in the race, but you always got a question what are the jockeys going to do? Because I feel like it's like playing craps. Like, you're just throwing the dice and see what the hell comes up. It played out today. It seemed like there was a fair bit of speed, and I think they went like the first quarter was like 26 or something stupid. I'm guessing that there was just like little to no run up or something, and it was probably closer to like a 25 and a half, but still, it was glacial pace in a race that seemed to have 3 or 4 horses I thought that were going to try and vie for the lead. And so I think you bring up a good point here with the 1 Heavenly Sunday and the 3 Glorious Princess. Like, which one of these is going to go to the lead, or are they going to duel? If they do end up dueling, I do think this sets up for off the pace. I see Charles and Jay, I think both kind of mentioned is it the 4 tax implications? The Klarovich horse here, kind of a P type, ended up finishing. It's got a bunch of seconds coming in, and for that reason, I kind of looked elsewhere. I think the horse makes a bit of sense. But I thought that the 2 Esprit coming in here, I think that this is a horse that last time just got absolute glacial pace to run into, and just didn't really make up any ground, and was just wide the entire time. There was a full field of 9 in that race. You get a little bit less of a field. You only got 8 horses in this race, but I'm hoping that Flavian doesn't decide that he needs to go. 3 wide, then 4 wide, then 5 wide. Going, that last time was a mile and a quarter, so he probably actually ran like a mile and a half. So we got to cut back here. I think this is a horse that's got a bit of a late kick. And if something stupid does happen on the front end, I think a spray is going to be set up here from the for the setup. Even though I played the fake chat alert on the 7, and I think the 2's probably. If you looked up fake Chad in the dictionary, right, there might be a footnote about this horse with starting at Tampa, but just kind of looking at the notes for the last race, wide, no cover, going a mile and a quarter. Unless you're much the best, that's just not the trip you want. So I'm hoping on the cutback, it might be able to get a little bit better of a trip here. So I like the 2 Esprit, but I really like the 1 Heavenly Sunday. Big old Q1 square there, or not really big, but Q1 square. There's not really much else there. Optics thinks the 1's going to get the lead over the 3, but remains to be seen. I think, Caleb, you brought up that this horse has set off before, so if Louis decides to really, really send the 3, I could see Tyler kind of just sitting back a little bit on this horse. But
if that happens, you really want. I mean, you're not going to take Louis loose on the lead if that's your argument.
I mean, I just don't think the 3's any good. So I mean, he's gonna have to get off and pick the horse up and carry it across the line. And I've never seen a jockey do that. Physically take the horse that way. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that the 1 and the 2 kind of made the most sense. Like I said, the 7 can win. The 4 can win. But I'm hoping that we get a little bit better of a price here with this 1. So. Any other horses you guys want to talk about in here?
Not for me.
No? Nope. All right. Let's move on to race 9. By God, they carted a stakes race that had more than like 7 or 8 entries on the dirt. This is insanity.
This is the best stakes of the meet, right?
So far. I think, yeah.
Well, what's going to beat it? I mean, the Travers, the Baffert wins.
Travers.
Yeah, National Treasure goes wire to wire. Oh, I'm here for it,
baby. I might quit horse racing if that happens.
I'm here for it. But we got 10 very, very good horses, I think, in this race. There's 10 horses, and 10 is just such a nice number that I'm going to go with the number 10. So I got the number 10 here, defining purpose here for Kenny McPeak and Brian Hernandez Jr. Old Kenny had a nice little winner Kenny had a nice winner with Leperoux in what race was that, Kale? Was that the first race on Sunday? That 6 horse, or was it 6 horse? Yeah, right. Because we were both cooking in that early pick 5 for a little bit, but I think defining purpose. I'll tell you, man, if there was ever like an optic, like you want to see the types of horses I like betting on optics. I mean, I feel like this is just the prototypical optics plot that I just love to bet here.
That horse looks amazing on optics. I don't even understand it how good that horse looks on optics.
I mean, I've only seen a few horses that look better than this horse on optics. Do you remember that one horse, Caleb? Like you pinged me about it, and it was like this tiny Q1 square that was almost so far up into the left off that you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And I proceeded, I think, make a large win bet on that horse, and it did not work out. But I think that this 10 horse, looks great on optics. Optics does have, I think, a couple of red words on it. I think does think it kind of tripped out in the Indiana Oaks last time out. But just because the horse tripped out, I mean, it doesn't like we got ice contention here. The plot fit obviously is red because none of these horses have run a mile and a quarter yet. But the speed rate of only 20. So they don't really seem to think that there's going to be a ton of speed up front. So I think defining purpose is going to be able to get out there and maybe not necessarily get loose, but I think get a little comfortable there on the lead. And I mean, at 10-1, you know, I've definitely seen worse speed horses to try and bet. And I believe that's my lone A. Oh no, I did mark another A, but it's really kind of like an A between A and B of the horses kind of coming from off the pace. The horse I like the next best is Gambling Girl, and I obviously finished third by 8 lengths last time out. Two of the horses that beat her are in this race. Regressed a bit on speed figures from that Kentucky Oaks. But second off the layoff, I expect to obviously get a little bit of improvement. But really, looking at that last that CCA Oaks, at least Optics has that race coded as a very slow pace. I haven't looked at time form yet. Do we got blue fractions on that race, or is it just is it normal fractions there on time form, Mark?
For Gambling Girl?
Yeah, for that CCA Oaks, were those blue fractions, or did they just have it?
No,
marked as
just
a-
normal. Just normal.
So yeah, so that's probably a place where Briz kind of disagrees a little bit, but just kind of ran evenly through that. And I know Wet Paint, I think, made up a bit of ground in that race and ended up winning. So closed into a slow pace there. So maybe I'm picking the wrong horse out of that, but that's a horse that I can see maybe improving a bit, trying to run back to that Kentucky Oaks figure, which I think fits in here pretty well. I don't have any optics notes on that last one, but yeah, I thought Gambling Girl made a bit of sense. And there's another horse that intrigues me a little bit, but before I talk too much about it, Caleb, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, so I landed on two horses in here. A couple horses, I suppose. I did look at your 10 a long time. I probably wouldn't look at this 10 ever if not for the optics plot, but the horse looks so good on optics that what is sure to be a nice price will make my ticket. My biggest note, I think, is kind of in line with what Emily pointed out, in that she had two perfect trips in two of her last three. I'm not sure she gets that today, but at 10-1, I mean, that's a price you can take a shot there. Rather unoriginally, I landed up on a horse that I don't really love in here normally, but I mean, Josh, you talked about the CCA Oaks and you went to Gambling Girl, but I mean, Wet Paint just ran a much better race. I mean, they basically had the same trip, and Wet Paint beat her by 9 lengths. I don't love taking the favorite in a race like this, especially a pace-dependent horse like Wet Paint, but I think she kind of proved that she's not an Oaklawn Park specialist, that she's not an off-track specialist, and that she's just a nice filly. A bit of a grindy filly, to be sure. I don't think anyone's going to mistake her for the next Monomoy Girl. But, she ran a nice race in the CCA Oaks. She probably ran the best race in the Monomoy Girl 2 back at Ellis, went against a slow pace over a speed favoring track, and she actually made up some decent ground there. And her Kentucky Oaks effort wasn't bad. I mean, she ran fine. I mean, she probably shouldn't have been 8-5 that day, but I think she ran fine in that race. And, when I kept looking through this field, I had a hard time finding a lot of horses that I thought were going to be able to go 1.25 miles. And she's about the only one I'm not really worried about. So it's not original and the price is kind of gross, but she already has a win at Saratoga. She has a win going 9 furlongs. And I do think that she's one that's going to appreciate the extra distance here, where that's a big question for a number of others. I see that in chat, Jay brings up the 5. That's actually the other horse I landed on. But Mark, you said you were a Castellano simp. So if this was your horse, I'll let you go first.
It is not. No, so you can be the Castellano simp today.
Okay, I'll be the Castellano simp this time. I'll be honest, I don't love this is more of kind of a reach in here, because I don't love a lot of the other horses that I think take money. Sacred Wish, I mean, if she couldn't beat Wet Paint last time with that trip, I don't see how she ever beats Wet Paint. Julia Shining, I think, is a takeout reducer. I know I'm going to offend a lot of people in our chat, but she's just never run a fast race, even though she's won a couple of races. She's just not fast. And if you want to take her at 7-2 to improve in a 10-horse field, be my guest. But she's not for me. Yeah, there's a lot of other Gambling Girl. I mean, the New York bred. I think she's probably as good as she's going to get right now, and I think she has to improve to win this race. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the lower priced horses just don't do anything for me. So Fireline, to Jay's point, I don't know what happened in the Delaware Oaks. It was a terrible race, but if you kind of can find a way to forgive her for that, and the fact that Chad Brown wheels her back into a grade 1 off of a non-effort, essentially, it tells me that he still has confidence in this horse. It's a Juddmonte homebred, and judging off the pedigree, she's one that really should be able to get and even thrive at this distance. I mean, a ton of stamina up and down on that pedigree. And I think Fireline is one in here. Her best race came with Castellano up. He's been, 5 for 7 the last 2 months for Chad Brown. So he's been getting some live ones for Chad here. So this is the one that I think is going to get overlooked on the board based off that stinker of the last race. But this would actually be my second pick in the race after Wet Paint.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe I read wrong, but I think Castellano is also named on mounts on Saturday at Woodbine. So I don't know if I would imagine he's going to stay and ride Fireline. You'd have
Saturday
to
or Sunday?
Saturday.
I know he was riding Sunday, but yeah.
Well,
he's
Mark
definitely-
did look at Saturday. On
I did look
accident,
at
remember?
Saturday, so that's how I have this reference. We've already gone to this. One of us was an idiot and capped the wrong sequence at Woodbine, but no. So I really wonder if he'll be on this. Thanks, Josh. Thanks. I admitted it this time. I'm kind of shocked at the horses you guys are on. I mean, Wet Paint I did have on my, do have on my tickets. Obviously she's the chalk, so of course I have her. But Caleb and I were both dead set against her in her last race, and she just proved both of us wrong. She's, I mean, she's not the prettiest horse, she's not the flashiest horse, she's not, whatever, but she just gets it done, and she likes to win.
She
so,
proved you wrong after proving you right twice in a row. I hate it.
yeah, right. So, yeah. I mean, her CC Oaks was a nice race. She probably improves going further, judging by that CC Oaks. So yeah, I mean, she's a logical player in here. But Josh, I am a little disappointed in you, because how do you not like the 8 randomized in here? This is such a Josh horse. I mean, it's a Chad Brown horse. I get it. I know Josh doesn't love Chad Brown horses, and it's not an 8. But it's a 6, which sort of looks like an 8 if you squint a little bit. So no, I mean, I think randomized here, she's stretching out. There's clearly a distance concern with her, but I'm more tempted to just draw a line through that acorn and assume that maybe she needed a race, and just kind of didn't bring her best stuff, because she was kind of done top of the stretch. It's not like she ran into some sort of distance limitation where she was getting leg weary at the at the 8th pole or something. We'll see with her. She's going to go to the front end, I would assume, and take them absolutely as far as she can. And I think she's a really interesting player here if she can get the distance. And I realize that there's a big asterisk next to that. Joel, on loan speed for Chad. I've heard this story before as well. And the other horse in here that I was a little bit interested in, I do have marked down as a B, but I'm not quite sure what to do with, is the 9 horse Taxed. And I realize she is 2 for whatever 9, and and sort of likes to hit the board more than she maybe necessarily likes to win. But I thought that Black Eyed Susan was a really nice race out of her. She seems to have improved as they've stretched her out. And she seems to be the horse that just kind of keeps getting a little better and a little better and a little better every single race. Obviously she's been one hell of a claim. I think they claimed her for 50 and she's earned 400,000 since then. I also think that maybe she doesn't necessarily love the off going. So if you draw a couple lines through some those off races, her form definitely improves a bit. And I love seeing that Bejarano shipped out for her. I think Rafael Bejarano is a very chronically underrated jock, because he rides in some very small colonies, at whether it be Indiana Grand and those kind of places, where he wins at a crazy high percentage. But I think when he was in California on the big stage, he did very well. So I think Tax is an interesting outsider in this race, especially because she's gonna get her set up, and she should be able to kind of sit that pocket trip. And if somebody like randomized the 8 does get a little leg weary, Tax is going to be one that's going to be able to pounce and take advantage, and hopefully get hopefully steal this at a bit of a price.
Yeah, I think we do need to talk a little bit about the well, I did see Murphy. Murphy did talk about the one Sacred Wish. He does like Sacred Wish. He says he has no idea what happened at Pimlico, and I think he thinks that the next two make a bit of next two races make a little bit of sense, look a little bit better. Who was the horse that he lost? Sunset Louise. Do you know who that horse is, Caleb?
It doesn't sound familiar. Is that the horse that um,
Beat Sacred Wish two back.
no.
That horse is
recognize
amazing. I don't know. I didn't recognize that. But if you kind of go back through Sacred Wish, I mean, obviously the two runners that are in here, Wet Paint and Gambling Girl, beat Hoosier Philly, at Pimlico. Oh, sorry, I was taxed. Never mind. Don't listen to me. But has some good horses in her past performances there. Obviously, the Pimlico race is kind of a toss, but yeah, definitely against Wet Paint here. But I think the fan favorite, Julia Shining. We got a lot of people in chat talking about Julia Shining here. Nick Feldman basically seeing the race like I am. Julia Shining, McPeak, well, not the Chad Browns, but Julia Shining and McPeak. Caleb, I feel like just for sentimental reasons from this past weekend, I mean, the fact that we saw Julia Shining work feels like that we should probably be betting this horse. But yeah, I don't know. That Ashland, I think I remember just like coming on stream and just shit talking the hell out of this horse, and I think I might have said who in their right mind's going to bet this horse in this race, and yeah. She showed up. Yes, I know she finished third, but seemed like kind of kept on. I thought made a little bit of ground there at the end, but still came up a little bit short. So one thing I will say about Julia Shining though is, I mean, the distance kind of hits this horse square in the eyes, doesn't it? Curlin on top, AP Indy on the bottom. I mean, this is
her dam was also pretty damn good. So.
Yeah, so I mean, this just screams. I think this might be the horse that kind of fits pedigree wise, because oftentimes we get these races and not a lot of this pedigree wants to go that mile and a quarter. So, I had a question mark next to it, but I probably will end up using Julie Shining in some way.
But isn't this just a brutal spot? I mean, off a 4-month layoff.
Yes, it is. It's a terrible spot.
And there's just no, if this horse, and this horse is going to get bet. Half the chat is on this horse. Everybody knows this horse. Everybody knows Dreaming of Julia and Malafat. And it's going to be the storyline. Nobody really trusts Wet Paint. I mean, even I'm betting her and I don't even trust her. So Julia Shining is going to be second choice in here. She's probably going to be 3-1. And I just think that's an abysmal price to bet a horse that needs to improve off a 4-month layoff, stretching out 3 furlongs. Just absolutely not for me.
Yeah, Caleb made the absolutely perfect point. It's just, it's spot on. There is a price where she is interesting. It is absolutely not the price you're going to get. And she being in this race is going to create value otherwise. Can she win? Sure. But she's going to create tons of value with other horses in this race.
Caleb,
She could win by 4, but I would rather be 1 race too late to betting Julia Shining than 1 race too early.
It's too early. Yeah.
There's no
I want her in her next start, wherever that is. That's where I'm interested. I want her to run a clunker here, or not necessarily run a clunker, run a decent race, but whatever. The Chronic needs a race and then get value in her next race, which you're probably never going to do because everybody knows who she is.
Caleb, I want you to write down 38 minutes and 15 seconds because that's where Mark just praised you. So we'll save that. We'll make it into a sound.
We'll make it into a soundboard. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, like I said, I will be. Nick Feldman saying the McPeak is his top pick. Obviously, the Q1 square my top pick. But I don't know. We'll kind of see. I do think that that Wet Paint does fit quite a bit here. And Mark, I think too, if you are going by optics, I mean, yeah, I think if you like the 2 or the 7, I mean, you do have to like the 9 a little bit if you're looking at this optics plot. Seems to be on the same spot there. So, yeah, I think,
Okay,
if
cool.
you are looking for an alternative to the two, I think the 7 and 9 both kind of make a little bit of sense.
And I think Tax will be value. I think you're going to get a really nice price on her, especially if Julia Shining takes money. Somebody like Tax is going to float up.
I
Yeah,
agree.
and then
And
Ryan Howard really likes the 8 here. Sorry, Caleb,
That's
what were you gonna
Mark's.
say?
No, I was going to say I agree. I agree with Mark on the 2 picks he mentioned as well, the 8 and the 9. Maybe less so on the 8. I don't think that horse is really talented, but I should have a sizable pace advantage in here. But I agree mostly with Taxed. I think that's a horse that could get overlooked in here and isn't as good as a few others, but might just have a better trip at 4 or 5 times the price.
Yeah, and Nick obviously did join a little bit late because he's also talking about the fire line. These are horses we've already kind of
Yeah.
touched on.
Me
So
and
Nick,
Nick.
oh, go ahead.
So I was gonna say stupid question in here, but I probably chase jockeys. Well, I know I chase jockeys more than anybody else in the group here. Arad gets off randomized to ride Gambling Girl, and he had also ridden Chocolate Gelato before. Anybody give Gambling Girl a look in here? I thought it was interesting that Arad probably had choice of Christ 3 or more in here, and he ends up on a horse that's 8-1 on the morning line, is 2 for 11 lifetime. I had a really hard time getting to her. Her 2 back, her Kentucky Oaks was a really nice race. And then she got a little bit of a layoff. Second off the layoff here, is she is she a player in this race?
So Mark, I will forgive Nick Feldman for joining late and not knowing what we talked about
Did
before.
somebody talk about
But
Gambling
you
Girl
will
and I was
not.
tuned
Did
out?
you just
Damn it.
like not listen to me talk about Gambling Girl whatsoever?
I'm sorry, I was doing something. I was taking care of Discord mod shit. Sorry. My bad.
Discord mod shit.
Yeah.
Oh my! I didn't realize you guys actually did any moderation over there. So
I'm playing parent at the moment. I'm sorry.
there you go. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Mark. I thought Gambler Girl made a bit of sense here because I just thought that last race was just not good and it's kind of a toss out. I do know, in fairness, right? I think if you like Gambling Girl, you gotta like Wet Paint a little bit, but I just hate the price on Wet Paint. I mean, that's just like one of those like I hate these closer horses that need a setup that get that are at a short price. And yeah, maybe Gambling Girl is a similar horse to Wet Paint, but I'm getting 4 times the price on Gambling Girl than I am Wet Paint. But I mean, you can't buy dinner with value, right? You got to actually cross the finish line first. So. We'll see. We'll see what kind of prices we get in this race, but yeah, I did like Gambling Girl in this spot. Anything else in here?
I think we covered every horse.
There you go. I'm shocked Steven's not in here. Letting us know which one we didn't cover. But yeah, finally, I mean, this will be good. We finally get a nice big field for a stakes race. I think we've talked a little bit about the 3-year-old fillies this year, just maybe not being as good as we've seen in years past. In fairness, I feel like we've had some really, really good years for 3-year-old fillies the past couple of years. But yeah, this is an interesting race at least. Hopefully, Kenny McPeak shows up to Saratoga wearing his top hat and jacket like he did in Ascot, where he rolled out Classic Causeway to get embarrassed. But yeah, this will be
running up the track.
Yeah, and then he proceeded to run, I think, 2 more times in Europe and do the same exact thing. But he won the Best Turned Out award, I think, 3 times in a row. So, congrats to Kenny's groom on pulling that off. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to Woodbine on Sunday, King's Plate Day. And I do have to shout out, before we move on completely from New York, gotta scroll up. Mr. Road Warrior said, good evening. It was great to meet y'all up in the spa. It was great to finally meet Road Warrior in person. see, you know, sit and talk. He also met, Andrew Champagne, who we hung out with. So it was fun to see all those guys. But yeah, the Bold Venture, it's grade 3 here on the all weather, going 6.5 furlongs. This is Mark's preferred surface. So Mark, I'd like to know, who do you think is going to win this Bold Venture here, going 6.5 furlongs in the all weather?
I'm going to be super creative and I'm going to single the chalk here, who happens to also be Lone Speed, and that would be the number 5, Patches O'Houlihan. Horse has won 4 in a row, 4 for 4 at Woodbine. And again, my sheet's showing 4 for 4 at Woodbine. The course is clearly run 6 times here, so I don't know why it's doing that. But Ben, Ben in is it 4 with synthetic? Yeah, it's just showing 4 at Woodbine. Okay.
I know it's a weird thing in the program.
Is it a weird DRF thing? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, horse has been extremely good here. Will be, appears on paper, Lone Speed once again. Gonna go to the front and hope to hold on. I don't think this trip is going to be a problem. The extra half furlong, and I just think he's absolutely much the best in here. Really tough to beat. I'm not being creative, but it's a big field, and if I'm going to get 3-1 on a horse I think wins this race 75% of the time, I'm fine with that. So single to 5, move on, nice and simple.
Caleb?
Yeah, I respect the 5. I can't get that, maybe simplistic about it. I think he is Lone Speed. I think Mark, has the right idea there. The speed isn't traditionally phenomenal going 6.5 at Woodbine. I was just looking at some of the track trends anyway. That's not a personal observation, since I don't really play here that frequently. But it looks like, according to Brisnet, only about 16% of races get wired at this distance on this surface, which is a lot lower than dirt and even turf. So I'm not totally convinced about the 5. He's also moving up quite a bit in class from Ontario breds, the last of which was reigned off the turf, a 5-horse and a 4-horse field. The horse has talent. I'm not disputing that. But at 3-1, the horse can make my ticket. But at anything that's much shorter, I may be inclined to look elsewhere. The horse I did look elsewhere towards is actually the number 10, Super Watson. And this is just a really honest horse who just always seems to show up. He's a 6-year-old gelding now. He has almost 30 career starts, but he loves to win. Most of which these wins have come at Woodbine. And he just keeps on showing up with good efforts. I mean, if you look at his form, you almost can't find a bad race. He's beaten a number of horses in here, including a horse like Secret Reserve, who actually won this race last year, the number 6, as well as a number of others in here. So I just thought Super Watson just sort of felt like a very consistent horse here, almost a safe play of sorts, where maybe not the flashiest horse like the 5 with the big speed and 3-year-old taking on older and everything else, but to me he just always shows up. And I think if you're going to be 6-1 on a horse that I think is close to a lock to at least hit the board with some good win upside as well, I have no problem taking that. So I think Super Watson makes a lot of sense in here, and I think you'll get a fair enough price because he's not the flashiest runner.
Yeah, my top pick in this race is actually just inside of Super Watson, the 9, Old Chestnut here for Martin Drexler and Declan Carroll. And I think if you go back to the all-weather races, I think that those races fit in really well. Won a nice optional claimer here, April 30th. And that Briz figure, I think, fits in very, very well with this this group here. I unfortunately have not watched much Woodbine lately. But I will tell you that to start the meet and a couple times I did watch it during the summer, on optics, kind of exactly where that 9 is kind of placed. Those are the types of horses that have been winning on the all weather. the kind of the squares that are really right there in the middle of the plot, maybe a little bit above, split between Q1 and Q2. That's exactly where this 9 Old Chestnut kind of sits. So is going to get kind of first run, I think, on the speed. I haven't necessarily seen speed be really good, but the 5 has wired a few races, going this trip. So maybe the 5 is just that good. And Mark, kudos to you for not taking the dead chalk, but taking the second choice. So that was a little bit of an upgrade there. I think I'm taking the third choice here, so maybe I shouldn't poke.
But who's the favorite then?
The 1.
It's actually the 1.
Oh, the 1 is. Oh, wow.
I don't know that that's how things ultimately
Is that just a
shake out.
bad line?
I mean, unless they're just betting Cassie blindly, I don't know.
Okay, gotcha. I assumed the 5 was just the favorite, but
yeah, the 9 though was kind of ended up being my first choice. My second choice. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was just gonna say I did like your 9 as well, Josh. I have the horse marked down as a B. The horse makes sense. My issue with the 9 is just the fact that the horse is 4 for 26. The horse does not get it done very often. But I agree that the pace setup is definitely going to be there, and that was the other sort of the other horse that was interesting.
Caleb, were you
gonna say something? I was gonna say the 9 lost to Dream Shake last out, and that's why Josh likes it.
That was wasn't there another horse? Maybe it was a different race. There was another race where I swear I looked at a horse. Was it the 7? Yeah, thank you. It was a 7. So funny enough that you mentioned that, Caleb, because like you were talking about losing the Dream Shake. The 7 Border Town. I thought was interesting. This is a horse that had been running on turf and only turf for the most part. And last race got washed off the turf, ran on the all weather, and popped a nearly lifetime best figure, at least on Brisnet, on the all weather, losing to Dream Shake, who then came back and won. Was it a grade 2? Yeah, it was a grade 2 on the turf next time out. So I thought Border Town made a bit of sense here. Is going to be coming, I think, from a little bit from further back than the 9 is going to. But the other Martin Drexler horse in here, I thought made a bit of sense, coming out of a kind of a key race there with Dream Shake winning next time out. And I just think it's kind of sneaky because this is a horse that hasn't run on the all weather much, and maybe this is a surf. I mean, yes, I get it; it's a 7-year-old, but maybe gets a little bit of new life here running on the synthetic. 15 to 1 on the line. I thought that's that's an astronomical price for a horse that at least speed figure wise on Brisnet seems to kind of fit in this spot. Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say before we move on, I know we love to bitch about races that shouldn't be graded, or we have too many graded stakes. Isn't this the perfect example of a race that should be a black type that's actually a G3? I mean, this is a bunch of horses coming out of optional claiming races for the most part. There's some black types in there, but like this is the kind of race that when we talk about having too many graded stakes, to me this is the perfect example. I realize it's a big field. I realize it's a competitive race, but there are a lot of good allowance and optional claiming races that also have big competitive fields. So,
I feel like bitching about a grade 3 shouldn't be a grade 3 is not the hill I would die on. Like if you want to make that
I didn't say it was the hill I was going to die on. There are clearly
look at the Delmore Oaks, which is a grade 1 that has like half the field has never even tried turf. Like that is an abomination of a grade 1. Well, that's why we're not even covering it tonight. But in this race. Yeah, is it a bit of a soft field? I guess, but like I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Or grade 2 and grade 1 races that seem to every single year draw 4 horses.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, agreed. No, completely agreed.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think this is the perfect type of race that should be a grade 3, one that attracts horses that have been running enlisted stakes, grade 3s, grade 2s. I mean, what the one horse won a grade 2, which once again was also on synthetic. And honestly, I mean, like not to get like too far ahead of ourselves, but I think we're going to be seeing more synthetic graded stakes races, with Belmont getting a all weather track. And then obviously Turfway continues to draw big fields and have big purses. Gulfstream has got the all weather track now. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Woodbine's always had the obviously the big contingent running on the all weather as well. So there was one other horse I did want to talk about in here, which is the 2 Flag of Honor. And I just have it marked as a question mark. I haven't. I have to go back and maybe see if I can. I don't know if Timeform has got figures on this horse at all, but is kind of a horse that I might take a look at some replays or see if I can find any information on this because, for generally speaking, Australia breeds very, very, very good turf sprinters. And the fact that there's a horse here that has been running in, was won a stakes race, some nice handicap races, went into some in Group 3, Group 2 races, and they're shipping it over here, transferring to Canada, and they're going to be running in a sprint. I don't know. It just intrigues me a little bit. I mean, they breed for turf sprint, and we tend to see that type of pedigree do pretty well on synthetic. So I don't know. This was just one that kind of interests me. I don't know, Mark. What's the how's the all weather Tomlinson look like on this horse? I mean, does it look any different than does it stand out at all? I don't know.
No, it doesn't really stand out at
Okay.
all. It's a 3/48 Tommy. There are no time form ratings on the horse. Yeah, I mean what you said is all accurate. The horse won apparently a very nice nice handicap race at Gosford for the solid purse on it. I can't blame you for giving a shot here in a race that I feel that isn't the deepest of races, that the quality is not necessarily there. But and I think to me that horse, the 2, is more of a why are you here kind of horse, and if that's I wouldn't beat anybody up over taking a shot there.
Yeah, the wild card of the race. I had no opinion on the horse.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't know how he's going to run, but he could win by 2. He could run last. Neither would totally surprise me.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then you look at the work tab, and like the horse, for all intents and purposes, has been working very well. So I don't know. I to me it was just something that like you said, the wild card factor. I'll see if I can do some more digging. Maybe I would say I'd ask some of the Australia experts in the Discord, but I can't do that. But yeah, I don't know. This is just something that kind of struck me as interesting here. I did see. I wanted to get to Murphy. He says that he does like patches, so he agrees with you, Mark. He's also chalkying Weasel. He thinks that I don't know what I don't Border Town wins typically. I don't know what he's trying to say there, but it feels like a horse like Drexler. Maybe he doesn't think that a horse like Border Town would win typically, but feels like a horse like Drexler will get to win. And then he has said, "LOL, Dream Shake." But
that is the proper response, actually. Oh, Dream Shake.
And then Nick Feldman did mention a Rip Art Collector. Hard to imagine.
Yeah, that was
yeah, it's a shame.
That's a shame. That blew my mind when I saw that this morning.
Yeah, and especially like I just thought about him because the Charlestown Oaks or Charlestown Classic's coming up, and I think he's won that race twice in a row. I think was it or they just won last year? Yeah. So, it's crazy. But let's move on here to race 9, the Dance Smartly, going to mile and 16th here on the turf for fillies and mares 3 years old and up, and we got a another nice big field here of 9, and fan favorite Moira in here as the 5-2 favorite. Salma here at 3-1, Mr. Karis at 4-1, Justify My Love at 6-1, Super 40 8-1, double digits on the rest. Caleb, you've gone second every single time so far, but we'll let you jump in here. Mile and 16th on the turf. Not a turf marathon. We skipped that race, but where you kind of land here, Caleb?
Yeah, this was a hard race for me. I think the race probably starts with Moira, but I'm actually not going to be using her in here. I'll let Mark talk about why he is, I'm sure. But, this is just a favorite that I just don't need. I think she's much better on the synthetic relative to the turf. I think she's probably better going further than this rather than a mile and a 16th. And people just seem to love this horse. She's like the Canadian Julia Shining. So, except she's actually run fast races, but she's never run fast races at this configuration on this surface. So she's not necessarily one that I think I need. She got dusted by Fev Rover last out, who is a very nice mare to be fair. But she wasn't one that I needed. Of the shorter prices, I would definitely prefer the Chad Brown horse, Salima. This is not a horse that I think a ton of domestically, but this is not a very strong field of the Dance Smartly. I don't think there's any monsters in here. Salima has 4 wins out of 6 starts, so she does like to win. She came out after a pretty lengthy layoff last time at Saratoga on an optional 80 and got the job done as the pretty heavy favorite. She's very versatile. She was kind of given a quirky ride going a mile and a quarter at the American Oaks, so I'm kind of willing to forgive that because I don't really think that she wants to be on the lead. But she does have some speed if Kazushi Kimura decides to use that. So I think Salima is your most likely winner. I would certainly prefer her to Moira. And I'll go talk about one price, although this is a spread race for me. But one price that I did think was a little bit interesting in here was the number 5, Justify My Love. This is a Paulo Lobo horse, who he ships up here. He's had some really nice runners lately, specifically, on the turf and at Turf One on the synthetic. And this is a mare who, was supposed to be fairly good when she came over. I mean, she was competing in Grade 1 company in South America against Didia, who was a very nice, also Paulo Lobo horse, I believe. And then came here, took a while to sort of figure things out, but came away with a decent win at Churchill late last year. She kind of didn't show up for 2 races in between at Gulfstream and Keeneland. I'm not totally sure what happened in those 2 races, but her last 2 races have been really good. She ran a decent 3rd at Churchill back on May 21st in a race that featured a couple of next out winners. And then she turned the table on a few of them, including the winner, Henrietta Topham, when making a late closing run to get up at the listed stakes race at Horseshoe Indianapolis. So I think that Justify My Love is a 6-year-old mare that is actually still kind of improving and stepping forward, which is kind of interesting. But she's one that's a bit of an outsider in here that I think is in with a big chance.
Yeah, I also did like Justify My Love in this spot. Was my second choice in here. I think you said all the right things. Is one that seems to kind of just gradually improved. And I mean, I don't know, maybe getting rid of the boat anchor, Vinny Shimano, kind of moved this horse up. But JJ didn't do much with this horse either in the Pacific, or not Pacific, the Pegasus World Cup filly mare turf. But I think just finally found a soft enough spot there in Indiana Grand and comes up here and. There's not any world beaters up here, so I kind of agree. I think that this might be a good spot here for Justify My Love. My top pick though has to be for a horse named after a character in a show that I've yet to finish. But that is a 9, Mr. Dracarys here. I hope that's Dracarys. I hope I'm not like misspelling, like it's not like absolutely not named after the was the dragon, right? In I was gonna say Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, but the 9 here, shipping in here from Aqueduct. Honestly, when I looked at the optics plot on this race, the 9's this kind of solo up here. Q1 square on the surface of distance. So this might be one that just kind of gets out there and gets loose a bit. Kind of going back, looking through the horses races. I mean, yeah, Dylan Davis had a nice little race here last time out in the Forever Together. And I know it's a very, very, very long layoff, of 9 months here, but yeah, I don't know. I thought this is an interesting spot for this horse to come back. I don't think this is a very, very tough spot. I know this horse has been competitive, winning listed stakes, been competitive in other listed stakes. And I know Mark is on this horse as well, just because I see the jockey, so I know that he's betting this horse. But yeah, I just thought Mr. Carson got a little bit of a pace advantage in this spot. So she was kind of my single A here. And then I have Justify My Love as a B. And I really didn't go much deeper than that in this race. So, Mark, I'm interested to see where you kind of landed.
Yeah, no, I know Caleb mentioned Moira, and I hoped Caleb was going to break out his favorite phrase, but he didn't quite do it. He thought about it, and then he walked it back. You almost said it, and if you said it, I was going to agree with you, because I think they've gotten to the point with Moira where they don't know what to do with her, and they're just taking shots and throwing darts now. Clearly, the wheels have. I mean, I realize she hasn't run bad. She's got 3 second since, but it seems like the wheels have sort of come off since that Queen's Plate last year. And they seem to be just kind of taking stabs and trying to figure out what is it that she really wants to do. And I just think I want her nowhere in here. I have no interest in her. She's going to be massively overbet based on her chances of winning, and I think there's other interesting places to go in here. You guys have mentioned a couple of them. I know Caleb was high on the 7. Josh mentioned the 9. I think both of those are interesting players in this race. So I'll mention 2 that you guys haven't. First one is the 1 horse who somebody in chat just mentioned, Super Hoity Toity, who's a horse that is 2 for 2 over the Woodbine turf. I think this is one of those ones where has a obviously has a G3 win here over Synth. In June. And then in July ran up an okay race in the Trillium. Comes back here, gets back on turf. Does again 2 wins over the surface. I thought the figures in those were competitive. It seems to be a horse that again a lot of these handle both surfaces, but again Caleb mentioned these sort of horses who are still kind of improving every race later on, and on the time form figures, this is a horse that just kind of seems to keep getting a little bit better. And from last year to this year, took a big step forward. And I wonder if there may be still a little more in the tank for this one. And the other one is kind of a price in here that I was interested in. Again, horses that you guys haven't mentioned, and that is the 3 horse Ready Lane. Emma Jane Wilson hopped up on this horse last out in June in that optional 50, and got the first win in quite some time. I like when sort of you get these horses that sort of have a jockey that has them figured out. Roger Atfield is obviously very high percentages at Woodbine. And, I thought that the actual figures, I'm seeing 113 time form, and that's not that much slower than somebody like the 7, who's only 3 points faster. I think this is a horse that, obviously has the local advantage of having a couple of wins across the surface, and one that doesn't need to take very much of a step forward to be an absolutely major player in here. Again, horses that both probably need to get really nice trips, but again, we've kind of mentioned this is a wide open affair, and I'd rather take a price in here and try to find some value than take a shorter priced horse who's definitely going to be overbet, somebody like Moira.
Yeah, I looked at that 3 a lot, Mark, and the horse is 15-1, so I'm not going to completely knock you for taking her. But my biggest issue with the 2nd place horse, perhaps tonight, exited that race and then won an allowance and regressed by 12 points on time form. So, in my own kind of analysis, if I see a horse that exits a race and then wins, I assume that unless they drop in class, I would assume they improved. But with the exit a race and then win at the same level but regress by 12 points, it makes me a little bit skeptical of that time form fig, especially with the fact it was upgraded for the slow pace. So I wasn't sure what to do with her, but at 15-1, I mean, with connections that have teamed up and had some success, I don't hate the pick, but the figure there I thought was a bit questionable.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was looking at it, seeing both the last 2 figures came back 113.
Yeah,
and when they're different tracks, I think that if it was just a Woodbine fig and it was a one-off, then I'll completely agree with you. The fact that she seems to have run 2 in a row. I give it a little more credit. Again, it's 15-1. There is a right price there. And I think that's probably the right price.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anything else in this race?
I did look at one more horse that we haven't mentioned, which was the 6, Malakio. And this is a horse that I kind of view this horse and the one horse in a similar vein because they basically ran against each other in the last 2 and just kind of traded winning. But this is the horse that both of those last 2 races had slow paces. The one was able to come from off the pace against a slow pace last time out and get the job done. 2 back, the 6 was pressing the slow pace and just kind of lost that battle. I'm not really sure what to make of this horse, but I think the price will be pretty fair. And I kind of view this horse similar to the 1. I mean, if I like the 1 at all, which I somewhat do, I think the 6 also sort of figures in here. So that's the only other horse I'd probably mention.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the last race we're going to cover today, and this was the last race I handicapped. And as I'm going through, I think Caleb, let me pull up the chat message you sent us. Where was it? 17 horses in King's Plate. What the fuck? And yeah, it was. We're about maybe 20 minutes before stream, and I was like, oh no, I haven't gotten there yet. So yeah, that was the last race that we kind of were. It's incredible. And this race always draws really well. I mean, it's for Ontario breds, so it's got a $1 million purse, but cannot be graded because it is a restricted race for Ontario breds only. But yeah, you got well, actually I have 19 horses. Are the 18 and 19 AEs?
The 18 and 19 are AEs.
Okay, yeah. 18 and 19 are AEs in here. And I mean your morning line favorite is the 6 Calic. The nice it was a Chad Brown turf horse. The 1 Stanley House is 4-1. Kauko Kaipu is 6-1. Elysian Field at 8-1, and then you basically can get your price on whatever other horse is running in this race, because there are a lot of them. So Mark, I will let you go first here.
Oh, thanks for letting me go at like my worst track on my worst surface. Thanks, Josh.
I just assumed you were going to pick the 6 Calic and just move on, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I do like Calic. So no. I mean, I had 3 horses in here. 2 of them are the logical, probably your first and second choices, and 1's a bit of a price. So first off, I'll go from the inside out because I am the JJ Simp of the group. Stanley House, I thought was interesting in here. The 1. I think those, if he runs back to his 2-back or 3-back races, he's a major player in here. Not quite sure what happened in the last out race in the plate trial. He was beaten pretty badly and seemed pretty flat. So I don't know if it was I honestly don't know what happened that day, but I'll give him a little asterisk in here. And I thought Stanley House was somewhat interesting in, again, really a wide open affair. Calic is in here, again, there's that whole thing. You never want to take a short price on a horse doing something for the first time. Calic obviously has never run on synth, but most horses that can run on turf can run on synth as well. So not super worried about it. The Chad Brown shipper, Chad does come up here and love to poach races. So I would imagine they couldn't quite find something soft enough down at Saratoga, and they decided to come steal a race up in Canada. That's probably the game here. And I would agree with what Josh is saying. Does he want to necessarily go this far? It seems like his best races have been going a mile and a 16th and a mile and an 8th, and last out in the Belmont Derby, albeit in much tougher world-class company, was not as good of a race. So yeah, there's definitely that to be that question mark to get through. The other horse I thought was a little interesting was the Maiden Breaker last out, the 11, Touch and Ride. Horse that They tried to debut on turf, went to synth, and won that last out race. The figure came back really nice for that. It was a 107 time form figure. If you look at somebody like the One, who I think is the fastest time form over synth at a 107. So I thought touch and ride, obviously it's always a big, massive class test. Obviously maiden breakers last out versus winners first time is always a big step up, and we're stepping up to a very good race here. I realize it's not a listed, it's not a graded stakes, but it is clearly a very, very quality race. So is the horse able to take the step up in class? Always something to be considered, but that last race was really, really impressive, and wouldn't be shocked if the 11, can handle it and take that step forward. So those are the three that I used. I didn't get super creative or super deep in this race. I'm sure somebody else has a 30-1 that makes a ton of sense and they can make a good argument for, but it's not me.
Is that you, Caleb? You got a 30-1 you can make a case for?
I don't actually. I'm actually on the horses that the chat seems to be on. Nick and Murphy both on the number 2 Elysian Field, and that's where I landed. I'm kicking the filly in here against the boys and getting 5 pounds. I thought that she has really improved in each of her last 3 starts. Yeah, I mean, she finished second 2 back, but as the distances have gotten longer, it seems like she's just gotten better. She seems to be a filly that's just figuring things out, improving with more distance. If you look at the pedigree, there's really little reason to think that she wouldn't be able to see out the 1 1/4, especially given the way that she finished off that last race. I thought that was pretty impressive there. She did get a pace set up, to be fair, but runners have exited that race in the Woodbine Oaks to perform pretty well next time out. I think it was the 4th or 5th place finisher that came out to win a stakes race next out, actually, and with a pretty improved time form figure. So I thought Elysian Field in here just seems like a horse that is really sharp, is improving with each start, is going to get the distance. It's pretty versatile from a pace perspective. With this many horses, I'm not really worried about the pace being any kind of way. I just want a horse that can avoid trouble and sort of make his or her own trip. And I think I get that with Elysian Fields. So that is my top pick in here. I agree with the chat. I think 8-1 is, on one hand, I think 8-1 is a good price. On the other hand, I'm like, wow, this is a 17 horse field. That's going to be like 3rd pick. So I'm not really sure, but that is where I landed on top. I don't like Calic. That might be just due to the fact I don't like Calic in America, but I'm not convinced this horse can get this far. And I don't know that, it's just not for me. I was curious, I guess, on that note, if the entries are correct, Castellano will be here on Sunday. Did it seem a little odd to you, Mark, that he's not riding any of the Chad Brown runners and instead he's going to Kazushi?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think Chad is pretty noted for shipping into a track and picking up a local jock. That's kind of a thing. When Chad ships around, it wasn't shocking to me. No.
Has Chad been riding JJ much lately though?
No,
JJ
but more than he's been riding Kazushi.
Yeah. I mean, again, Chad is notorious for shipping into places. He uses Camacho a ton in Tampa. If he ships into some of the Mid-Atlantic stuff, he uses Paco a ton. Like he's a guy who tends to use the hot local jock or the known quantity local jock. So I didn't take that to be something that scared me. No.
I mean, I think that's fair when you consider like a string that he has at Tampa or at Monmouth. But when he sends 1 or 2 or 3, I mean, the one that sticks out to me is typically the Santa Anita Del Mar races. He almost always sends Irad or, maybe Jose or somebody. Flavian or somebody over with that horse. And the fact he only sent 2 up here, and it kind of makes you wonder, why is Castellano here? Because most of his mounts appear to be pickup mounts. It doesn't seem like he came to ride really any horse that he's been on before. So anyway, I don't want to derail the conversation, but I just thought that was a very unique situation.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I looked at all of Castellano's mounts over the 2 days, and I have no idea what horse he's actually here for.
Unless he's here for Stanley House.
Unless he's here for Stanley House.
He did ride the Maiden Breaker back in Gulfstream and rode it another time too. So, I mean, it is $1 million purse, right? Like So like if he is able to win, I mean, it's a
The
nice
horse
day's
has.
work.
Oh, okay. The maiden break. I got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, maybe. My thing was I was sort of head scratching at why he was here at all. I wasn't finding a horse where he's been on consistently and he's been the go-to jock on that horse. I had a hard time with that one. So.
Yeah. But and the reason I like Stanley House in this spot. I know Mark, you already talked about him a little bit. I am a little concerned with the last race. I went very wide and then just kind of evened out. But if you look at the optics plot, and like I said, we have a ton of horses in this race, no surface of distance because none of these horses have run this distance on the synthetic, or on the dirt either. I mean, the one kind of just sits is that big old square near the middle in Q4, and I just thought that this is a horse that is going to be able to hopefully avoid some trouble and kind of take that maybe close into what maybe it ends up being a hot pace. I don't know. It's very tough. Oftentimes with these very very big fields, like you still do get usually an honest pace. So maybe this is going to set up for a horse like the 1 or the 11 or the 6, which I know none of us are going to take a short price on. I did see some love for the 11 in chat. I think it was Murphy. Yeah, Murphy likes the 11 touch and ride. I thought someone else liked the 11
somebody
too.
else, yeah, somebody else
Mark?
like the 11. Oh
Mark
yeah,
the 11. Okay, yeah. So
glad you're
yeah,
paying equal amount of attention to what I say. Is what? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we reciprocated on that one. But I would be remiss if I didn't go back to my roots here and with the little 3 cherry special here, the 13 Paramount Prince for Mark Cassie did wire one of the plate trials here in a field of 12 and won very impressively by 5 lengths, going a mile and an eighth here. So yeah, I thought the 13 made a ton of sense. I mean, was broke its maiden in a maiden optional claimer and immediately went to black type. It went a little bit there before it won, and then like I said, won this plate trial pretty impressively. And there's a bunch of common horses in that race, and obviously there's more horses in this race, but basically wired on going the same trip and won very impressively. So 10-1 here, you get one of the top jocks up here in Patrick Husbands, obviously one of the top trainers in Mark Cassie. They win at 31%. I'm shocked that this horse is 10-1 on the line. I would guess that this horse probably gets bet down a little bit. I mean, I know it's a big field, but I don't know. I'm guessing maybe this horse is going to be kind of like a 3rd or 4th choice in this race. I don't know. I thought that this horse is going to get bet a little bit, but Paramount Prince is my top pick in this race. And then going a little bit further outside, you get Rico Walcott, who I have never seen or heard of because I have not played any Woodbine as of late. And Tedston Holder, who I know even less of. So at least
those
I know
aren't real names.
I mean,
I mean,
names.
real names.
I mean, I don't
he
do.
just made this up.
I can't even pronounce this horse's name. But the 15 here, and this is like I said, this is kind of just based off the optics here. Sits right there with the 13, but is a small little square. So maybe this is a horse that's going to have a little bit more staying power, albeit this horse has mostly been doing it sprinting, and sat a little bit off the pace in that grade 3 last time out, going a mile and 16th here. It is on a bit of a layoff, but I think this is one once again. While I think the 13 is going to take a little money, I could see that these two kind of flip flopping in odds. The 13 going off more like 6-1, the 15 kind of going off closer to 10-1. So it took a while for this horse to kind of break its maiden and figure it out. But it seems to have kind of gotten it right, light bulb moment since breaking its maiden. And I do think that this is going to be a horse that's going to be up and close to the pace. Yeah, I'm going to use kind of 13, 15 on the pace. I'm going to use the 1 coming from off the pace. So those kind of 3 horses here I'm going to use. Anything else on this race, guy, that you guys like? Caleb, I know you only picked like horse.
Yeah,
But
I had a hard time because I didn't like anybody in this race. I mean, I looked at the one, but at 4-1, that horse is hard for me to use when really his only good races came in a different barn. I had a hard time getting to Stanley House when just because of that, as the probably second pick in here. I think there's a lot of horses in here who don't want anything to do with a 1.25 miles. That's kind of my biggest issue with the horse you just talked about with whatever his name was, Walter Cronkite riding number 15. There's a lot of cheap speed types in here that didn't do a ton for me. So, yeah, I mean, really, I did kind of respect the 11, actually, the horse that just broke his maiden. I think he did. That figure came back very strong. So I did respect the 11. I liked the 2. And that's kind of the only 2 that I landed on with any conviction. I guess I did land on the 8 a little bit, but that's really just kind of a worse alternative to the 2 in my mind. The horse is more pace compromised and was beaten by the 2 last time out. But in the event the 2 runs into trouble or for some reason doesn't see out the distance, I do think that Wickenheiser, with that pedigree, is one that absolutely should get 1.25 miles. I have no doubts about that. So maybe you think the extra distance will help this one turn the tables on Elysian Field, perhaps. I wouldn't hate that take. I think that she's less likely to get bet. So that'd probably be the only other horse I would look to include in here would be the number 8.
yeah, and Sixers asking about bombs. There were 2 bombs that I kind of like. They're horses, and Caleb, these are horses that we always say, we took a look at, and then sometimes they end up like sneaking on the tickets or whatever. But I think we got boomed by one of those horses earlier. I think this past weekend where we both like we both like looked at this horse for a very long time and didn't use. But the 4 Twin City here for Gary Boulanger and Stuart Simon. I thought this was a horse, and like I said, I'm kind of basing it off looking at the optics plot. Kind of sits in that spot. Same with the 11, the Maiden Breaker. It sits in that spot where I've seen a lot of these horses kind of win, and that was this horse ran in that plate trial that was wired by the 13, and this horse obviously finished third. Lost, got third by a head. And the 13, that's the race of 13. Paramount Prince won, and kind of looking back at the fractions and the pace figures, it was a rather slow pace up front. So I don't know. Maybe if this horse gets a little bit more pace, maybe he's going to be able to find a little bit more. Does seem to kind of be progressing the right way. Gary Boulanger has obviously ridden this horse every single one of his starts, and Gary Boulanger is kind of like the Mike Smith of Woodbine, where he's up in age and he only takes the mounts that he wants. So I thought this horse made a little bit of sense. And then on the AE list, I thought the 18, if the 18 can draw in, would be a little bit interesting here for Kevin Attard. Kevin Attard, obviously one of the top trainers up in Woodbine, and this is just another horse that, kind of looking at optics, is that big old square similar to the 1. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you like the 11, you probably should like the 4 a little bit. And if you like the 1, I think the 18 makes a bit of sense. So 4 and 18, two bombs that I kind of like. We'll see if the 18 draws in, but I think the 4 may be a horse that maybe sneaks on to one of my tickets.
I liked your 18 a little bit, Josh. If he draws in, I think he's interesting. And then I do also like who was it? Murphy, that brings up the 14. If I had to pick a 30-1, it would probably be the 13 and the 14 two-way crossing, who hasn't really shown a whole lot of ability on turf, but finds a race that gets washed off and put on the synthetic. And only the second time he's been on the synthetic, and he's run 2 of his stronger races there. Maybe just the wrong surface this whole time. He gets in back on the synthetic here, and has a lot of stamina in the pedigree. So yeah, if I was going to take a 30-1, I kind of agree with Murphy that the 14 was interesting. But other at field.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you as well. Of the big prices, the 14 was the most interesting.
Yeah, Nick Feldman saying that he likes a 17 a little bit. if he gets in, or he is in. But that's another Kevin Attard horse here. Been bet hard a lot. Has some breeding that says it can go longer. So
it's like the other Attard.
Yeah.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, and then Murphy likes it as well. So yeah, so some bombs there. If you're going to be playing contests, or if you're looking for some win bets there, horses to use underneath. But yeah, I know Caleb's got to drop, so we'll kind of wrap this up pretty quickly. Thank you guys for hanging out with us as usual. Obviously, check out Optics at opticseq.com. Check us out at onthewronglead.com. Still have our daily contests going. I've been getting behind on doing the results just because. It's been crazy at work.
So
and
adding
it was
all the
crazy on
zeros
site.
together was killing me.
It's not adding the zeros. It's like having to go reread the article to know who everyone picked, and then adding the zeros just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, Nick saying Travers weekend. Any early thoughts? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. National Treasure, wire to wire. Caleb, any early thoughts there on Travers?
I need to look at the fields a little bit more, but I don't like the Baffords.
Yeah,
Mark?
I don't like the Baffords either. Archangelo or Mage for me. But I again do need to see who actually shows up for the field.
And actually, I got to use this because I forgot to use it earlier.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
And I was going to say,
So
oh,
that's
for
the Archangelo,
Archangelo,
there's my
but then we have the drama.
And
with
again, I am
Archangelo,
I would take Archangelo over Mage as of right now.
Road Warrior says Scotland. I don't know who the heck that is. Murphy says Archangelo. So, but
Forte.
yeah, Forte. Oh goodness, yeah, Forte, get out of here. But yeah, we'll be around, and yeah, we'll have a nice Travers stream next week. So we'll catch you guys later.